is no H.
No.
Because everywhere it is in all the text translated, it is all with H.
With H, yes.
Please take with H.
Yes. Bhadram karnebhi shrunayama deva. Yes, yes, but it is wrong. It's not wrong, but it's not there. That's it. In Sanskrit, the word is certainly devaha, but when it comes together with the following word, which is bhadram, then that H falls away, should fall away. It cannot remain there. So grammatically that's correct without H. But the long A should be here, deva. But see, this is, it teaches a lot about the mistakes that we do. The biggest problem with our mistakes is that they lie usually in what we can call an internal blind spot. You do them, but because of lack of awareness, you don't realize that they are there. And for years and years together, you can continue to make that mistake, sometimes because others make it. And that's not blaming others. I'm not blaming others. But then when somebody makes us aware of those mistakes, then today I was fully aware. All the time when I was coming down, I was aware that I will say Deva. But in that moment, samskara, the conditioning, when a mistake gets conditioned, it becomes so deeply ingrained that then you have to work on deconditioning yourself from it. That's again another practice to get rid of those mistakes. So that's why yoga works so much with conditioning, deconditioning, and reconditioning, which means because somehow the body and the mind, they will remain conditioned. But then if they have to remain conditioned, then let's choose the best, the most beneficial, the most informative conditioning, which is defined by light of knowledge and not through laziness or negligence, which is rooted in ignorance and darkness. Let's get rid of such conditioning. Even to always sit straight, it's a conditioning. But it's better than this conditioning. So the mantras that we are studying is the 9th one. The 9th mantra consists of 2 mantras. The first one we had already studied and discussed in our previous session, which was about Bhadra, the good, explained as the radiant and the pleasant, which then leads to Swasti. Swasti, which means good being, well-being. And that's why the word Swasti occurs quite a few times in this mantra. Now this second part, which means Swasti na indro vruddhashravaha, Swasti na pusha vishwavedaha, Swasti nastarkshyo arishtanemihi, Swasti no brihaspatir dadhatu. We have already pronounced it, but let us read the translation and then I will explain. May Indra, the one with abundant glory, grant welfare or well-being to us. Swasti, welfare, well-being. May Pushan, the knower of all or the master of all wealth, grant welfare to us. May Tarkshya, the celestial bird, the one with the undestroyed wheel, grant welfare to us. May Brihaspati grant welfare to us. Om, peace, peace, peace. Most of these deities I have, and particularly their yogic understanding, because in yoga, these deities are not meditated upon as some forces or energies working outside, but within the body itself. That is how they are meditated. And I have had a detailed discussion on each one of them when they were mentioned in the first Shanti mantra. So I will not get into a detailed discussion again, but I will just briefly point out the important ideas and how they should be related to in meditation within oneself. So, Swastina Indro Vridhashravaha. First of all, yes, the Vedantic masters who are deeply established in their awareness of oneness and unity, to them, any idea of multiplicity is still superficial. So, if here different gods, divinities have been mentioned, then some of the Vedantic commentators here say that this is for those who lack still the in-depth understanding of the unifying consciousness that we speak of, the self, the essence, the inner essence, in which is one, in which there is no sense of duality. Ekam eva advitiyam, as the Upanishads put it 3 times the same thing. One, only, not two. 3 words. Ekam, one, only. Only also points the same thing, and advitiyam, not two. All the 3 words, because the reason the masters use these, deny differences, plurality, division 3 times, because there are 3 types of dualities. First of all, there is a duality of 2 different things, such as the duality, the difference of a tree from a stone. That's the most obvious duality, the most obvious difference. A stone is very different from the tree. That is one difference. And then there is a difference between 2 trees. Both are trees, and yet they are different. 2 trees, even if they are the same species, even if they are 2 mango trees, still there is a difference between them. So that is the second type of difference. And the third type of difference is within the tree itself. Within the tree itself, the upper part of the tree is different from the roots. The leaves are different from flowers. So this is again a different type of difference. So there are these 3 types of differences, and in the same way, like these 3 types of differences don't exist in infinite space, it doesn't exist in infinite space like consciousness. So that's why any sense of duality, anything that speaks of the many, for them, for the Upanishadic masters, that is someone who still is not comfortable with this unifying idea of oneness, and still whose mind is still conditioned by this duality, by this difference, by this multiplicity, and therefore still wants to speak and requires the language of multiplicity. This mantra is addressed for such a person. And even if, in fact, if you look at the context of this mantra, and I'm saying this because these deities which have been mentioned here, they are extremely ancient deities, and they can be recognized in all the cultures that spread throughout the globe back in extreme antiquity, because somehow there is a common root. So, for example, if Indra has been mentioned here, he is the way he's understood and described in the Vedic teachings, he is very, very similar to Zeus Pater of the ancient Greeks, Jupiter of the ancient Romans, Thor of ancient Norse mythology. So they have a very common origin, and as the culture spread in all the different directions of earth, these deities also, they were worshipped and they spread in all the different parts of the world. So in extreme antiquity, if somebody from India would have gone to Northern Europe, he would have very well recognized the Ashwini Kumaras, the Indra, or if he would have gone to Greece, when he would have seen Zeus, he would have straight away, when he would have seen the thunderbolt holding in his hand, which for a yogin ultimately refers to tapas, austerity, hard work. It symbolizes that, but that's a symbolical significance. The masses, the point that I'm trying to make is that the masses were worshipping these deities back then in that extreme antiquity, and yet that multiplicity was considered by the Vedic masters required only for those who still are not comfortable with the idea of a unifying essence of consciousness, with that oneness. And that's why one commentator on this mantra says that this mantra is for manda buddhi, those who still have a slow intellect. Coming back to the dull-witted of our Gita course. The dull-witted, he is still of a very high degree, because even Patanjali, in the beginning of, as he starts developing the idea of samadhi, deep concentration, the first level is to choose a specific name and form. To have a name and form. So this is the dull-witted in the deepest states of meditation. So it's the dull-witted one, but he has gone beyond the dhyana and has entered the first step of samadhi, and still 5 more steps. Sorry, 3, 4 more steps, because the complete steps are 5 in Patanjali's understanding. So still 4 steps have to be taken. So in that sense, he is a dull-witted. Okay. So he's a dull-witted one of a very high standard, high level. Okay. So, swastina indro vridhashravaha, may Indra, Vridhashrava, the word Vridhashrava, which has been translated here by me as the one with abundant glory, it can also be translated. Glory means fame, the one who is known everywhere. And it is in a way, I mean, it is true, as I said, in the extreme ancient world, Indra was very clearly, I mean, if you look at the properties of Indra in the Puranic literature and the Zeus Pater of Greece, you can straight away recognize the tremendous similarity. Even the form, the properties, everything is completely similar. So, not one similarities, but many, many similarities. So, the fame, the one with an expanded fame, the one who is known to many. May that Indra, may the one that is worshipped by the many, may that one, that Indra, give good being, well-being to us. And this is really for the dull-witted, because someone who has found peace within himself, why would he have to pray for... Just yesterday I was going through a yogic text, and there was a very beautiful statement that someone who has found that light within himself, then such a person does not require an external representation. He doesn't require external enactments of religious worship, because everything is happening within himself at all. So someone who still needs to call upon out there, he's still on the path of evolution. So, but may he bring good being to us. In the yogic sense, usually Indra is related to physical strength, to the strength of body. So what can this then, what Patanjali, for example, calls virya. Virya, which means strength, immense inner strength, which comes, it's the strength that we acquire when we become enthusiastic and devoted to something. That's why the sequence of Patanjali's idea of virya is Shraddha, first of all, total dedication, and when we become dedicated to something, when we really get dedicated, then a tremendous strength arises. And that strength leads us to Shraddha, Virya, and Smriti. Smriti, which means mindfulness. So Virya Paramita in Buddhism, same. Shanti Deva in his Bodhicharya Avatara, the Bodhisattva way of life, one of the most beautiful texts that Buddhism has, in my opinion. I really love that text tremendously. And there he explains virya as enthusiasm to do something good. Tremendous enthusiasm to do something good. That is strength for him. So may that strength within me lead to my well-being and for everyone's well-being, because he's not saying only my swasti, but for everyone's swasti. May that strength within me, which arises out of dedication, may that strength lead towards well-being. This is a beautiful prayer indeed. When you look at it from an internal understanding, the yogic understanding, what we call adhyatma understanding, inner understanding, then the mantra really becomes very beautiful. Otherwise, if it's just a prayer to a king of God out there, the way, again, Zeus is the king of all gods, Indra in the mythological stories of India is the king of all gods, Jupiter. So in the same, if that doesn't make that much sense, but except one thing that the yogic masters say, that what makes someone a king of demon and a king of God, the difference, very beautiful, I like this sentence, that if I have some wealth, if I give it to others, what will I eat? Somebody who is constantly worried about this, he becomes a king of demons. And someone who is constantly worried that if I enjoy this, then how will I give it to others? Someone who is worried about this, he becomes the king of gods. This is again Bodhicharya Avatara, Shanti Deva. Again, that's why I like his beauty, his teachings. Yadi dasyami, if I will give, kim bhokshe, then what will I enjoy? If I give it to others, then what will I enjoy? Ityatmarthe pishachata, someone who is always worried about himself only, he becomes a king of demon. And yadi bhokshe, if I will enjoy it myself, then kim dadami, then what will I give? What will I share with others? Someone who is worried about others, pararthe, someone who is always worried about others, devarajata, he cultivates the lordship of gods in his life. So both are deeply worried, but one is worried about themselves and the other one is worried about others. That is the distinction between. So that is So ultimately, this inner strength, may that lead me towards well-being. And then the second one is Swastinah Pusha Vishwavedah. May Pushan, the knower of all. Pushan, it also occurs in one of the Surya Namaskara mantras, the 12 mantras of Surya Namaskara, Om Pushne Namaha. The 12 Surya Namaskara mantras are there. And last year I think it was last year, yes, we studied all the 12 Surya Namaskara mantras. And one of them is Pushne, Pushan. Pushan simply, it's a very simple word. Push means to nourish. So Pushan is the one that nourishes. And in the Vedic context, it usually stands for the sun, which nourishes the creation through its life, through its life-giving light, warmth, rays. So Pushan, may that Pushan, who knows all, because he sees everything. He sees all with his, it's often referred to as, very similar, some of the Vedic mantras describe Pushan in the same way as the non-blinking eye, which constantly sees everything that is happening on the surface. Somewhat it reminds me the Egyptian eye of Horus. It's a beautiful symbol, and I see it often in people's homes. And when I see that Egyptian eye of Horus, then many people also carry it, particularly when I was in Palestine and Israel. Then I saw many people carrying it as a locket. And what do you call it? Not locket, but pendant, yes, that's the correct word, yes, pendant. And so it looks the description is very similar to that. But in any case, from a yogic perspective, it is the nourishing energy within ourselves, which nourishes our senses, which nourishes our understanding, which nourishes our body. And ultimately, some of the prayers to Pushan suggest, because he's addressed that you are the nourisher, so lead me to the teacher who can nourish me with the light of wisdom. So in that context, it is also the principle that spiritually nourishes us by uniting us with our master. And sometimes also the prayers that are addressed to him, you nourish all of us, so sharpen my intellect like a razor. These kinds of expressions. Bhurijo rivakshuram. Kshura means razor, by which you cut the hair. But first it has to be sharpened. And once it becomes sharp, only then it can cut. So make us. So some prayers directed to him have also this idea there, which nourishes and makes our intellect, our buddhi. I've had detailed discussions. Intellect does not really capture the essence of the word buddhi. Make that buddhi very subtle so that it can grasp the truth. So it's a deep inner nourishing essence that the masters evoke through their prayers so that the body and the mind can be nourished. That is Pushan. And then comes the next one. May Pushan, the knower of all or the master of all wealth. Two types of translations are possible because Veda, very interesting. Veda also means knowledge and Veda also means wealth. Both. One Sanskrit word, Veda, also means wealth. And that is why the Vedic teachings are not only referred to sometimes as knowledge, but also as radiant wealth, because it's radiant wealth. And in fact, Buddha, in one of his suttas, he uses the word Brahmanidhi, which means the supreme wealth for the Vedas. He uses this word. Brahma means supreme, and Nidhi, treasure. The word Nidhi, literally translated into English, is treasure. So the supreme treasure of knowledge and insight, he refers to it as Brahmanidhi. And so Veda means both. And that's why Vishwa Vedaha, the one to whom ultimately belongs all knowledge, or to whom belongs all wealth. And when the masters, always when they speak of wealth, they have two types of wealth in mind. Radiant wealth, which is again the same as knowledge, or human wealth, which is Shri, the sustenance, because Shri means to sustain. Ashraya, that which sustains, that which supports. Okay. And then the next one now, Me Tarkshya. Tarkshya, yes, the celestial bird. This really stands for the solar disk now, which was meditated upon by the masters as the radiant golden bird. As the radiant golden bird, the bird of light. But not in fact, not even any bird, but the eagle, Garuda. That's why that Garuda. There is a temple to Garuda here, just 3.5 kilometers further away from Rishikesh along the Ganga. Very old temple, Garuda Chatti. It was the first place when people used to start on their journey towards Badrinath. That was the first overnight stay. So the first temple was, after coming out of Rishikesh, is Garuda. So that is Tarkshya, the celestial bird whose rim, Nemi means rim, wheel, but Fali. Does everybody understand that word? Fali. Fali is usually you have a wooden wheel in ancient times, and then they used to, because they did not have a lot of metal, so rather than making the whole wheel out of metal, they used to just put metal outside here, because this is where the wheel contacts. And so it was that protective rim which protected the wooden wheel from the contact that it constantly had with the earth, with the hard earth. So that Lohamai Nemi, that outer rim which protects. And Arishta means, as I explained also on the first day, Arishta, Rish means himsa, violence, and Arishta therefore means non-violence. So Tarkshya, the celestial bird, which has non-violence as its protective ring. And this is, you can explain this mantra, this part of the mantra through, there are various explanations. The commentators have explained it various ways. I'm following in this the explanation of Sayana, the commentator who has commented upon most, I think all the available sections of the Vedas in the 12th century. And he explains that for whom ahimsa, non-violence, is like the external protective ring. And from a yogic perspective, this makes complete sense. And the wheel is, of course, the solar disk. And the essence is ultimately, because the Upanishadic masters, the Vedic masters, they often meditate on the divine as present within this solar disk. This is an idea that occurs again and again. Okay, so swastinastarkshyo arishtanemihi swastino brihaspatir dadhatu. And the last one, may Brihaspati. Brihaspati is the lord of speech. It is the lord of speech. May that Brihaspati, he is really the deity of knowledge. So these four deities, the first one was the deity of strength, the second one of nourishment, the third one of protection. Tarkshya is the deity of protection. And the fourth one is knowledge. The fourth one is the deity of knowledge. May these four deities lead us, lead all of us. Naha, plural has been used here. Naha, all of us, may they lead towards swasti, towards good being. It is in Brihaspati is a very important deity, even if he is often depicted, because all these deities, they have depictions. They are depicted as in human forms. And Brihaspati particularly is depicted as also, like all of them, as warriors, because the idea is that light and ignorance, they are locked in a constant struggle, and light has to destroy ignorance, so that we discuss this also in the context of the Bhagavad Gita repeatedly here also, that doubt, question arises from this conflict between some information and some ignorance. If we have no information at all, no doubt, no question arises. If we have all the information, then also there is no question. So when does question arise? It arises when there is a conflict with some ignorance that is there and some new information. When, as we try to assimilate it, these sparks come out as questions. And these questions are the moments for the teachers when they realize that now a question has come up, which means a window has opened. Now let me enter. And it shows that the person is assimilating knowledge, digesting knowledge. It's not just lying there in the stomach. Sometimes the food just lies there and it doesn't get assimilated, and ultimately what happens? It has to be vomited because it doesn't get assimilated. Vomited from both sides. When it doesn't get assimilated, that's what happens. But as it gets assimilated, then questions are essential. They come up when you try to assimilate. And sometimes one answer is not enough. Then we seek for another answer. So these questions, that's why questioning is so important. And that's why the masters, so all of them are depicted as warriors, but particularly Brihaspati is his symbolical warrior depiction is deeply symbolical in the sense that often his bowstring is lauded as representing Rita. Rita, which I explained again earlier also, Rita, which means right. It's very similar, in fact, even in sound. Right, what is right? Righteousness, correctness. Recht in German, same word. So, and in one of the hymns, the arrows that he throws are not destructive arrows, but sadhu, beautiful arrows, good arrows, wonderful arrows, which produce vision, insight. So that is the kind of description. So even if the description is there in his hymns, then such description is found. So he is clearly the deity of knowledge and wisdom. And most importantly, I think it is in his hymns, because these hymns are extremely ancient, and it is in his hymns that the word yoga in the Veda occurs in the sense of unification of thoughts and deeds, particularly in this sense. The most ancient usage in any text of the word yoga in this sense is found in hymns dedicated to him. That you love and pervade the unification, yoga, of our thoughts and actions. So it is in his hymns dedicated to Brihaspati, that the word yoga occurs. Yes, even though this mantra is about multiplicity, if you look at the numbering, it's about multiple divinities, about multiple forms of the divine. If you look at the number of this mantra, Rigveda Samhita 6, it's 189, first orb, as I told you earlier that the Rigveda is divided into 10 orbs. So the first orb, 89th hymn, and 6th mantra. So this is the 6th mantra. If you look at the 5th mantra, the Supreme Lord has been addressed. In the one Supreme Lord, Tamishanam, we call upon Humahe, who, the same root which is there in the English word God, as I explained last time, that according to the Oxford Dictionary, the word God is ultimately derived from Huta, from the Sanskrit word Huta. So the one that is called upon in moments of suffering, in moments of grief, in moments of tormentation, the one that is being called upon. So Tamishanam, that Supreme Lord, Jagatastasthusaspatim, who is the Lord of the moving and the non-moving, Tamishanam Jagatastasthusaspatim, Dhyam Jinvam. Yes, I wanted to speak about this mantra because of this beautiful word, Dhyam Jinvam, the one that can be pleased only through our good actions and understanding, the one that can only be pleased by our actions and by our understanding, by our actions that are inspired. Same word which is there in the Gayatri mantra, Dhyo Yonaha Prachodayat. May that light inspire our actions and our thoughts. So there in the Gayatri mantra, actions and thoughts are inspired by light, by knowledge, by wisdom. And here, the same word is used, the one that is pleased by such actions, by such radiant actions, and by such radiant thoughts. We call upon them, we call upon that essence, Dhyam Jinvam Avase, for protection. Avase, for protection. Humahe Vayam, we call upon. So before the multiple forms have been mentioned, the supreme form, because in the Vedas, the chronology, not chronology, but the hierarchy is formless and qualityless. The one with quality, but with no form, and then form and quality. So, Brahman, pure consciousness, has neither a form nor any quality. Ishvara, which is generally translated as God, that has no form but has radiant qualities. And these radiant qualities are used to meditate. There is no form, but radiant qualities are there. And then come the multiple forms, which have forms as well as qualities. The third category. So this mantra is dedicated to that third category, and that's why some of the commentators said that these are for the manda buddhi, for the ones with a slow intellect, still have not grasped the higher essence. This is for them. So with this Shanti mantra, this ninth mantra completes. And now we can proceed towards the 10th one and the last one, which is really the last one. And let me start with a brief introduction about this 10th mantra, and then we will study it more carefully in the next session. But this Shanti mantra, as you can see, comes directly from one of the Upanishads, as you can see from the origin, Shvetashvatara Upanishad. And this Upanishad, out of all the Upanishads, it shows the greatest influence of yogic ideas of all the Upanishads. In fact, I have 4 reasons why I'm saying this, Shvetashvatara. The first reason is that the Upanishad straight away starts with dhyana yoga, with the practice of meditation. Dhyana yoga. Tam dhyana yoga anugata apashyan. With the practice of dhyana yoga, they see the self, that energy hidden within themselves. So already in the opening passage, it starts with dhyana yoga. And it is the only Upanishad that speaks of asana. Yes, it's the only Upanishad that very specifically speaks of asana. When Guruji was here, he said that the plumb line to my asana practice was given to me by Krishna. That is what he said when he was sitting here in his visit 4th January, I think, 3rd January 2011, when he visited here. Then this is what he said, and this idea really stayed, because in the 6th chapter, Krishna says, Samam Kaya Shiro Grivam, the Kaya, the body, Shira, the head, and Griva, the neck, they should be in a straight line. And he said that if in Padmasana, in meditation, it has to be in a straight line, let me introduce these straight lines into all the postures. So this was his inspiration behind alignment. So if Guruji's inspiration was Krishna behind alignment, then Krishna's inspiration for this alignment comes from Shvetashvatara Upanishad. Shvetashvatara, the author of this, the master of this Upanishad, who teaches this Upanishad, his name is Shvetashvatara. We'll come to this name a little bit later when I will talk about the Rishi. Right now, so he speaks of Trirunnatam Prapya Samam Shariram. He speaks of Samasthiti, which means total equilibrium. Trirunnatam, and being upright in 3 places. He doesn't say where, deep secret. He doesn't say where, just 3 places, aligned and erect. That's all what he says. Krishna then says, Krishna tells us which are the 3 spaces. He doesn't say that, but he speaks of, so in very cryptic language, he speaks of asana. Straight away after asana, he also speaks of pranayama. So very specifically, the only Upanishad that, amongst the principal Upanishads, many later Upanishads speak about asana and pranayama, but amongst the principal 11 Upanishads, Ekadasha Upanishad, the 11 principal Upanishads, the core Upanishads, which are the most ancient ones, amongst them, Shvetashvatara also speaks of pranan prapidya. After calming down, straight away after asana, it starts speaking about pranayama. And after The expression is very beautiful, that after you sit in an aligned posture, in an asana, and you calm down your breath, then you are seated in the ship of Brahman, which then carries you on the other side of the very violent ocean of existence. This is how. So he gives a very fearful streams. You cross the other side of all these fearful streams which come up in the mind. Brahmodupena pratareta vidwan. Udupa means ship, boat. And srotamsi bhayavahani. All the streams which are fearful, which cause fear. You can fearlessly cross them once you sit into this udupa, into this nava, into this boat. Like so, often when over the past few days, my navasana is very, very bad. So I was practicing navasana a little bit more than other asanas, and whenever I do navasana, if at all I can think about anything, then straight away this image comes to me. But every asana ultimately is like a boat in itself. And the fourth reason that he is deeply influenced by yoga philosophy, or he has influenced yoga philosophy tremendously, let's put it like this, because Patanjali, he is far more ancient than Patanjali. He must have had tremendous influence on Patanjali, is the fact that he even refers to sage Kapila, the original father of yoga, according to the yogic system itself. Today, often you read Patanjali is the father of yoga, but if you ask any traditional commentator of Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, they make it very clear in the very first sutra, Atha Yoga Anushasanam, Anu, after. So Patanjali is simply presenting something that he had received from his mother, most likely because she was a great yogini herself, Gonika. So what he received, so then who is the original master? Straight away the commentators have to give an answer. Who is the original master? From whom did this teaching come? Then comes Kapila. Kapila's name always comes up. Kapila is a highly celebrated master, extremely ancient. Kapila simply means, Kapila is orange brown. It's yellowish brown, a little bit like red. And it's simply, generally it is explained as radiant, again, Kapila, like fire, fiery, the fiery one. That is how, the literal meaning of the word Kapila. Hiranyagarbha is just another word for Kapila, also sometimes used by the commentators. Sometimes Kapila, sometimes Hiranyagarbha. Hiranyagarbha, the one with the golden womb, the one who had gold. In one of my previous sessions, I said that gold stands for knowledge. So the one who has knowledge within himself, that light of wisdom within himself, that is Hiranyagarbha. And so sometimes, and there are very beautiful statements quoted by commentators such as Hiranyagarbho yogasya vaktananyah puratanaha. There is no further ancient master of yoga than Hiranyagarbha. And Hiranyagarbha is often equated with Kapila. Kapila is also by Panchashikha, a yoga master who lived approximately at the time of the Buddha. In one of his surviving sutras, he refers to Kapila as Adi Vidwan, as the first knower, as the Adi. Adi means first knower. So the first knower. So this Upanishad also specifically refers to him. As a manifestation of fire. Again, fire is deeply symbolical. It's not just this fire, but it's the fire of knowledge. And since he gave this knowledge, and his influence is certainly very Sankhya is the most influential philosophical system. Even, for example, Buddha was the prince of Kapilavastu, a city founded by the students of Kapila, the city of Kapila. And today, Kapila has slightly been forgotten, and that's why we don't really speak of Kapila very often. But he's very prominent, because what we say is that all holy, you should go to all holy places again and again, but there is one holy place where if you go once, it is enough. You don't need to go there again and again, and that's the spot where Ganga flows into the ocean, its ultimate source, where Ganga leaves aside its limiting name and form, which is there because of the two banks. And so when it breaks free from these two banks and merges into the infinite ocean from which it originally arose, on that spot there is still a very, very ancient temple dedicated to sage Kapila in Ganga Sagar. So thousands and thousands of people on 14th January, 15th January, when the sun starts shifting its journey towards the northern hemisphere, millions of people go and take bath in Ganga Sagar and worship at the temple of sage Kapila. I wonder how many of them are aware of the deep importance and significance of Kapila and his teachings. Sorry? Kapilasana is there, yes. Asana's name. Kapilasana is there. Kapilasana is there, yes. So, yes. Yeah, so I think the time is over. I was too young, you should remember. I was 6-7 years old. I don't remember. It was on the, it's from, I just remember it because of the descriptions that I have read. I mean, if you don't know the importance, then you don't. It's maybe just one of those rishis, you know. There are countless rishis in India, so, and countless temples dedicated to those rishis, so then you don't understand the importance. But the fact that his temple is there where Ganga flows into the river is deeply meaningful. So it's beautiful. It's really beautiful. I'll come back to this discussion about Shvetashvatara. Shvetashvatara literally means, in fact, the word itself, the way the commentators explain it, someone who is deeply engaged in Ashtanga Yoga. That is how the commentators explain. Because Shvetashvatara, superficially, it means the one with white horses. Shvetashvatara. But horses in the yogic understanding are the senses. So the one who has purified their limbs. And how do you purify your limbs? Through the practice of Ashtanga Yoga, 8-limbed path of yoga. And that's why, if Shvetashvatara was someone back then, of what use is he for us? He is of use for us because he inspires us to become like him. And how can we become Shvetashvatara? By realizing that he became Shvetashvatara through the practice of Ashtanga Yoga. So when we practice Ashtanga Yoga, we also become like him, Shvetashvatara, the one with radiant horses, which means the one with radiant senses. And where our senses lead us, that's why the prayer, Bhadram karne bhishramayama deva, lead my senses towards what is Bhadra, towards what is radiant and pleasant. So the commentators, the traditional commentators, explain the name as Ashtanga Yoga Nirata, someone who is not rata, not engaged, but nirata, from all sides, totally engaged in Ashtanga Yoga. He is Shvetashvatara. That is how. So it's the whole Upanishad itself. It has 6 chapters, and the whole Upanishad is deeply yogic, very yogic in nature. Every Upanishad is yogic. Upanishads have yoga comes from the Upanishads, but this Upanishad particularly is very clearly Ashtanga yogic. Let's call it like this, Ashtanga yogic. Not just dhyana yoga, not just meditation, but every limb of it. So we will just study one mantra from it, which is about Ishvara Pranidhana, that aspect of yoga, the 5th niyama, which is just the one preceding asana in the 8 limbs. Ishvara Pranidhana is the one before asana. Straight away after Ishvara Pranidhana, asana comes. So this one is about that. Let us come back to it in our next session. Any questions?
We have this intensive philosophy class in the future, like this. You said this is
Shvetashvataras. Yes, we can. Yes.
Maybe you study the next.
Okay.
Means after we have finished the Shanti mantras,
Yes.
we
We can start with Shvetashvatara. Yes. Yes, we can do that. That's a good idea. So many different possibilities.
Talking yesterday, what should we teach next?
Yeah, because now,
Because it's going to be finished.
what next?
What next?
Always a big problem. And there is no next, but we have to continue. Rowing our boat.
In the Untitled Yoga, Guruji says that the one who masters Paripurna Navasana, he can safely row on the sea of life.
Sea of life.
Maybe
Beautiful.
that's his inspiration.
That is the inspiration. He says this. Paripurna Navasana, the complete boat.
There.
Yeah. Paripurna. Ardhanavasana and Paripurna Navasana. Yeah, even these names, they are deeply, they contain beautiful ideas rooted within them, which we can explore through the Upanishads. Yes?
We should know, we should have deeper understanding.
Yes.
Not just really the deeper understanding.
Yeah. Once Rajvi ji, she had this, she had asked, yes, to just collect some beautiful teachings of each sage whose name is attached to the asanas, and yeah, at some point it will happen. I always, my father is never so happy when I'm teaching. He still says, student, continue to study. You are still not ready to teach. You have to work more on yourself. And whenever, that's why when I was called sometimes for giving discourses outside in Delhi or different places, he used to give the last discourse, and in his discourse in front of everyone, he always used to remind me that don't get deluded. So, also to practice myself a lot more. Okay. Let's conclude. सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः